Freddy Got Fingered is one of the greatest comedy films ever made. I know that's a strange thing to say about a film that has been universally panned as one of the worst comedy films ever made, but I feel there may be a resurgence for it. It encapsulates millennial humor before it really existed, predating many of its modern influences that share the same anarchic and deranged style of comedy. Freddy Got Fingered engaged with this aggressive kind of humor because it was parodying the popular gross-out comedies at the time. It made fun of them by taking their humor and pushing it as far as it could go, seen through a number of its tropes and characters. It isn't merely a mindless, gross-out kind of comedy film. There is still setup and payoff in even the most controversial scenes, like this scene of setting up here.
You're gonna be so proud.
And this payoff here.
Look at me, Daddy, I'm a farmer!
I'm really proud of that kid.
And the tone that this sequence shows is how most of the film runs. It's not constantly trying to shock, but offers moments of calm before ramping up the unhinged anarchy. In fact, this opening sequence sets up the legitimacy of this film, which is by giving it a hook, a central idea that can likely be found in one word.
Proud.
This is a dysfunctional middle-class nuclear family where the man-boy tries to make the father proud. That's basically the surface-level character arc of the film, but since it's disingenuous, it's not the message. The real message is actually that a creatively inept and annoying dimwit with all character and no skills can become a huge success, which I'm sure resonated back in the MTV reality show star times back then, and even more so today in the age of social media stars. Even Gord seems exasperated by such a fact.
I sold my cartoon for $1 million for my little drawing!
No, not my plan. Give me my plan.
This film has something that can actually thematically hook an audience, but this is not to say it has a forced, predictable, sappy message at the end like its contemporaries.
I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm acting like I got everything together tonight.
All my life you've been telling me to stand up for myself. Well, now I am.
Which it seems to be parodying instead.
Proud.
A couple of the supporting characters also add to the sense of how this comedy film is a parody of comedy films. The romantic love interest is, if not the funniest aspect of this film, the most satirical. She is a representation of this character archetype, but with some bizarre changes. In the comedies of this time, the hot blonde love interest would eventually, or immediately, have the hots for the doofus main character. Freddy Got Fingered aggressively ramps up all the quality traits to make her an overly ideal yet unbelievable love interest. She acts dumb, yet is also really smart. She has the hots immediately for Gord, despite him being out of her league. She's oversexed, and she also has this disability going for her, which just shows how diverse this movie was ahead of its time. She clearly comes across not as a real character, but a parody of a character.
I just want to suck your cock.
Whose mean-spirited, exaggerated, parodying character traits add to the anarchy of this comedy film. Another character archetype that Tom Green subverts is the child character, playing upon the children are innocent trope by having the kids seen as overly cheery and innocent.
Somebody's eating some birthday cake.
Yes, sir, it's my birthday.
Then contrasting that by then suddenly having horrific violence inflicted upon him. These aren't part of the set-up punchline kind of jokes, they are more visceral and play upon audience expectations of children in comedies, amping the shock value by showing this taboo, violence against children, for comedic effect. And it's the overall narrative that really sets apart Freddy Got Fingered from its contemporaries. Whereas these other kinds of films logically follow their obvious feel-good themes into mostly happy endings, Freddy Got Fingered has its own happy ending. The arc of this story seems to be straightforward throughout most of the film, until Gord gets his $1 million check, and that's when things get surreal. The movie's climax results in Gord drugging his father and moving both of them and their house to Pakistan. This sort of story change was briefly hinted at early on.
If this were Pakistan, you would have been sewing soccer balls when you were 4 years old.
But for it to make this kind of sudden diversion shows how this movie wants its hilariously deranged storyline to only work for the comedy genre. Another reason why this film is set apart from its less ambitious contemporaries, the comedy films whose stories could also work in dramas. There's also been the theory that this film is a metatextual examination of itself.
I got a check for $1 million. And he's talking about the movie. He's talking about the budget for the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And he's making fun of the fact that someone gave him $1 million.
Yeah.
$1 million to create something with it, and he turned it into crap.
This arises when Gord gets his $1 million deal over his stupid cartoon Zebras in America, which ends up being a parody of the parody that is this film. Whatever deep creative motives went into this piece of art, Freddy Got Fingered is a great comedy movie that outlandishly made fun of the state of comedy films at the time and of its own existence, making it stand out in a bad way back when it was released, but nowadays its completely unrestrained kind of comedy feels close to what comedy is today. So why was this film so critically panned upon release? I guess critics didn't pick up on the hilarity that I saw in this film, and I can't blame them. I wouldn't say this is a universal comedy film that'll bring the whole family together, or is it? But the audience ratings for this movie is right in the middle and a lot higher than critic ratings, showing just how divisive it really is. When I first saw this movie, I became pissed off because I thought it was going to be so bad it's good, but instead it was so good it's good. And there are other folks out there who are appreciating this kind of comedy as well.
I really enjoyed Freddy Got Fingered.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was hilarious.
Yeah, thank you.
You went out there with that, man. You took a crazy chance.
People that do love this freaking movie.
Yeah, it's
either you fucking love it or you think it's a pile of garbage.
Freddy Got Fingered is both awkward, uncomfortable, terrible, but at the same time, it's hilarious to where I laugh, but I can't stop laughing and I can't breathe.
Hopefully there can be more, even from people who weren't even born yet when the film came out, as it's likely to not feel grossly outdated like the other comedy films, but resonate even better because of how identical its kind of humor is to the kind of humor you might see in recent TV shows or in meme videos on social media. But beyond all the vivisecting of this comedy film, the main reason it's such a great comedy film is that it just is really funny. Varying in shock value, this film is stuffed with great comedy moments.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages? I hope I get a jobby, Freddy. I got my fingers crossed. I'm a loser! I wish I was dead! Oh!
The backwards man. Backward man, the backward man.
40 million fucking Deutschmark bomb! He's a child molester! Ah! I'm a sexy boy! Ding dong!
I don't know, it makes me laugh.